Hey everyone, today I'm going to go over how to remove broken fasteners, bolts, whatever. Now, I'm not an expert in this, but this is how I do it, so it seems to be fairly successful, so I want to go over it. First things first is know what you are removing. This is holding a pump to the side of a Honda, and I was able to retrieve one of the 4 bolts out. That's this one. Now, if you look, they all pretty much broke at the same place. So if you were to kind of look at that, you have roughly that much remaining inside, because it broke off pretty much flush with the head on the back of the pump. So we have a decent amount in there. We have about 1 inch. First thing is figure out what it is, and you're going to need a welder. You're going to have to figure this out, and we're going to have to do a couple other things. Now, we are kind of in a lucky position. Majority of engine work you're going to be doing a lot with aluminum. You can tell this is a magnet, nothing. So we have steel and aluminum. That's good and bad. So I could take a torch, go get my acetylene, and just kind of heat these up. I've already soaked it in penetrating oil, everything. None of that's working, but I could take the torch and completely burn them, and the heat will pretty much cause them to expand and break the connection they have. More or less, it's just rust. Well, unfortunately, steel is going to be a lot more resilient to the heat than aluminum will. If I were to take that torch out, by the time I had any type of benefit of it for the steel, the aluminum more than likely would have been damaged. And most definitely the seal in here, which I risk damaging just by removing it, much less heating it up. So that's just cleaning it up. So that's going to be a little rough. So a welder is going to allow us to concentrate that heat. Now, since I was able to take one out, I found the thread pitch, the size, everything. In my case, it's 5/16 by 24. I'm going to take a nut. I'm going to ideally thread it on there. With them being broken off and super corroded, it's not the easiest thing. There we go. There's one. Now, I got lucky that I still have some bolt to kind of hold on to. If it wasn't that stuck, I could just take a pair of vice grips, but this is in there, trust me. So you might be tempted to kind of keep it flush and then weld it on there. I don't like to do that, because unless you put a lot of weld on top, which you can, it's really not going to be a whole lot of anything securing it. I like to take it and roughly about 1/4 to 1/3 of the diameter, or the length of the, the height of the nut, have it exposed like this. Then I'm going to hit it with a TIG welder. You can do it with MIG. I'm just not very good at using the MIG welder. I'm much more proficient at TIG, and I feel like TIG concentrates the heat a little easier. Going to then hit it very hot onto the bolt, kind of fuse the nut and the bolt together. I might even do half, and then feed filler rod. If you're using MIG, you would want to turn up the wattage. Whatever you have it set on before, crank it up and turn the wire speed down, so it's literally almost like you're going to burn it to the contact tip. You don't want to, you're just doing small tacks, but the point is we're trying to get the metal very hot. That way that bolt gets very hot, breaks the connection, hopefully, and in the meantime we're also having a very secure weld in there. What that's going to do is it's going to allow us to not damage the aluminum, and it's going to allow us to have something physical to hold on to when trying to remove the nut again. So I'm going to go ahead and get it welded on there, and then I'll go ahead and show you what it looks like after, and then we will try to take it off. Now it's cooled off a little bit, but as you can tell, it's all filled in. Basically just made another head for it. It's still hot to the touch, so I don't really want to. Even the case is hot now. Like I said, it got pretty warm. Let's see what we have. I re-welded one of them. I put in the vise in an area that if it gets a little marred, I'm not too concerned over. I like to not cover everything up. I like to have a little bit of a view so I can see if it's snapping or moving. You want to move very slowly. This can take some time, but if anyone who's ever drilled these out before can tell you, so does drilling. Drilling also takes a hefty amount of time. I prefer to have these studs a little bit closer to the base, to be honest, because the longer they're out, you just don't really get that great of a bite. And if you get it pretty close, this is why I like the TIG welder. I'll just put the arc and make a puddle on the bolt head, or excuse me, on the bolt, and then I'll get a hot. I'll go back, get a hot again, go back, get a hot again. Just kind of doing tacks without actually tacking anything. And then I will start to actually weld the nut on. But I'll always have the nut there. I'm just kind of welding in the center of it. That, for me, gives me a very good heat penetration. Like I said, this can take 2 or 3 times, so if the first time doesn't succeed, try again. That's why when I bought these nuts for this, I bought 9, even though I only need 3. I hope I only need 3, but if I need to do this 2 or 3 times, so be it. I'd rather pay the 10 cents or 15 cents or whatever I paid and not have to deal with this again. So right now we are probably halfway done, and get my shorter ratchet out. That was a breaker bar. Mainly just use that for ease. Gives you a lot more leverage. And there we have it. I think we're pretty good. Excuse me. There we are. This is the one that I really heat soaked, I'm not gonna lie. But you gotta do what you gotta do. Heat is what really gets this going. I'm using pliers because it's probably like a few hundred degrees. I don't know where the end is either. And when you're welding this, make sure it's clean. There we are. Look at that. Done. So, like I said, when you're welding this, make sure it's clean. I would say 2 things that I see all the time on videos when I watch them is that they always end up doing the exact same thing. Don't get me wrong, this is not a new process. However, they never go over, it needs to be super clean, and you need to heat soak it. It's not really the fact you're getting a better grip on it. It's the fact that you are heat cycling the metal more or less, and you're breaking that connection. So getting a good weld on there. Some of the welds I see people make, I mean, they are sketchy to say the least. No, get a good weld, get it nice and clean, put as much time as you need to in there, and just get it good to go. And that's just what you have to do. So I'm going to do this to the other two, and hopefully we'll be done. I decided to kind of close this up before I do the other two. So yeah, like I said, if it breaks, do it again. Don't be afraid if it takes 2 or 3 times. It's still really hot, but that's it. The real key point is you want a good clean weld. MIG, TIG, stick, flux, it doesn't matter. Clean, hot weld. The trick is to really get it hot and just without having to damage it. That's a benefit of welding instead of using like a torch. The torch, it gets heat everywhere. Welding just puts heat where you need it. It will eventually dissipate, but the amount of that it will dissipate is going to be significantly less than it would be with a torch, because you're just heating everything up at that point. And if for any reason it gets to the point where it's just too stuck in there, you know, you will have to drill it. This works, I want to say, like 80% of the time. And if it's too far down inside, you can get like a thin piece of copper, like tubing. I like to go to like the air compressor section of a store and get some tubing, and just something that's just perfect size to go inside whatever hole you're trying to fill, and take your MIG welder, hot, and then at that point, once you have enough out, you can weld a nut on that. Usually the copper will help protect the threads. You don't have to worry about damaging them. You don't have to worry about having anything going wrong. So that's a benefit. If it's flush, it's even easier. When you do get a nut, make sure it's not very tall. If you have the case like I do, a normal size nut's completely fine. You shouldn't have to worry about it. But flush, narrow, it makes it a lot easier, and you don't have to worry about it. Okay, well, like I said, this isn't groundbreaking, but I really just want to put out there the parts that I see missing of the clean weld, and the heat. It needs to be hotter than normal welding. Hopefully this helped. Put a thumbs up if it did. Catch you in the next video. Subscribe. Have a good night.